because we are dying as a species, much like the atmosphere of Nubia. We were created to be slaves, to mine the gold mines, as the Anunnaki, so to speak, restore their atmosphere, which they destroyed, and which we don't know why. But Yahweh created the Elohim. The Elohims came down here and they created the atom in their likeness. So that means that there were DNA strands and biochemical cloning being done. If you go back to the records, the Circa records, you will find that there was a planet called Nibiria, a planet that was from the far distant. It talks of the story of Earth. So we're going to take a very advanced civilization who has divine origins, who had the gifts and the skills to clone human beings. I'm going to take you on a journey, one that will help you understand the human being's true origin. At first, it will make you uncomfortable. I'm going to base it on scientific facts that have been hidden from us. There's many beliefs about God, who God is, how we were created. Is there one encompassing energy? What are the Elohims? Were they fallen angels? Were they from divine origins? Were they from another planet who were and who are much more technically advanced than we are? I'll base this on the Anunnaki, a very intelligent and advanced race. Yes, there are other races on this planet that I believe have integrated with mankind, but the original origins are from the Anunnaki. There are records that have written their history for us to find the evidence. Some people say that they are myths. I say they are not myths, because the same way in a modern society that we keep records, why do we ignore the records that were kept hidden from us but now are coming to the surface? All these stories that are recorded are parallel Bible to the Quran, to the Torah, to the Gnostic records, to the Indian, Hindu records, even the Christian records. All have a parallel, all have a story. Records, those are the things that were hidden from us. That the Anunnaki came and they were advanced and they found this planet compatible in their search for gold to restore their own planet. Would you believe it? So the Anunnaki, they were made by their creator, Yahweh. They are the Elohims. And people get so freaked out. How can we be cloned? Well, don't we clone? Isn't there enough knowledge now that the cloning process is in full swing? Aren't there people that want to clone for evil purposes, as well as people who want to find out about the human genome? You see, it's very hard to know what's right and wrong in a world that's laden with so much confusion. And if we think about it, the wars on this planet have been in existence from the beginning. The search to rise above enslaved mentality have been here from the beginning. Us understanding who we are and what that Garden of Eden was in the Middle Kingdoms, which language and scholars have left behind written evidence for us to go through, we ignore. Why do we ignore this? Because we would have to face that an enslaved species would have constrictions. They would have sheep-like mentality. What happens if you really came here to remember that you were enslaved? You were created to be slaves. And what you're remembering is that that's not what you want, because you serve a higher purpose. And you could tell the very gods themselves, this is not how it goes. Because every civilization from every world seems to have fallen. So what is Yahweh's true plan? But when the Yahweh took over and made the covenant with the Israelites, then we will have to understand exactly what our purpose is. Why did they leave us in such chaos? And because they gave us knowledge and wisdom, they did not give us immortality. Human beings do not have immortality, not yet anyway. When it needed to be restored, our atmosphere is dying because our people are dying. And there's not one amongst us that cannot relate to it. So when we rise up, what are we rising up to? When we use our divine gifts, do we use them in the way that could help both the Elohims and us understand one another and put a quill to it? Because fighting for ownership of this planet has been, again, from the beginning. And the ones who started it would be the Anunnaki, because they created division in their own clan. They divided the land. And every structure and culture and individual or group like mentality, no matter where you're at, you have to agree that the quest for power has taken down the civilizations on this planet. Going into the same loop as we worship man and worship light workers or spiritual leaders or political leaders or people of entertainment that have the quality to thirst for power, and it's not doing us any good. That takes a lot to have to understand that, want righteousness, and understand that the transformation process will lead you to question the things that are not right and show both the gods and the earthlings that there is a better way. So the Anunnaki is the point of reference for me. But through your intelligence and through your wisdom and through the other civilizations who pass through this planet and have a stake at it, you could put pieces together. But we as the Earthling, we're too busy ignoring the facts. And we're too busy looking out instead of within our own atmosphere to find the truth. And where it all began, and it could be traced, began in Africa, the Middle East, Iran, Persia. That's where they landed. Those pyramids that are insignificant and are energy sources, why wouldn't they be landing centers? An airport, so to speak, a portal. Why wouldn't they? We have that. Players would be the people who are like founders. And we all understand that because each country has founders that help them build. In this instance, I'm going to speak of Enlil, Enki, and Ninkersha. These would have been astronauts that came to this planet in search for a way to cultivate on this planet and raise a civilization. These three gods, because they were gods to the Earthling, because they had technology. They knew how to build civilizations, and they had a key role in altering DNA to create a hybrid from the natural hominids that were on this planet. These players would have came from another civilization. We know that intuition, energy, wisdom, science all play a role in the human component, because these are the things we search for and we feel. But to accept that these three beings, Enlil, Enki, and Ninkersha, and again, these deities as history advances, their names are in different languages, but they all mean the same. They all mean the same. And you will have to be open-minded as you are putting your own puzzle together. But also have to believe that there has been human engineering on this planet. And let's face it, guys, we want to know something that could help us rather than deter us from our path. left their planet in search for material from this planet to restore their atmosphere. When they came down here, what they realized what could be done, how their own selected volunteers, right? We'll call them selected volunteers. There's many names from them, Giggies, fallen angels. You know, if you dig deeper into the history, you will understand that this very simple terminology that I'm using puts together the whole story of humanity without all the debate, because we're looking for basis, how their own volunteers revolted and why a slave was needed. So these three players that came down, they must have been astronauts. They were definitely involved in science, and they were in search for gold. And as they established their grounds, their own Eridu, their own Eden, they must have been exploring a land that also had life. I am not recreating a story. I am simplifying a story without all the debate, because human beings in this time frame, this time capsule that we're in, we understand enslaved mentalities. We understand what's being done. And in order to break free, we have to understand the players that are involved. Who had kindness for humanity? That would have been Inky. Who birthed the human into the state that the human is now? That would have been Ninkersha. Who would want the work done for their planet and have very little compassion for the human? Look at these three people who headed a team of volunteers who came to this planet to help save their own planet. They would have had control of this land. They would have been ones that would have toiled this land, and we came in contact with them. And they must have been scientifically more advanced, had knowledge of wisdom. They were able to cross barriers and advance civilizations because they did help us. They did assist us, especially after the deluge. And when we think about these people, their advancements, their shiny beings, their ability to take energy and create and manifest, we also have that same ability. If we do not understand, if we do not take the things they planted in us that are not necessarily for our benefit and decipher them, then the loop and bondage continues. These things refer to dynasties, what they pass down, why only 0.25% of the elite rule this earth and make decisions, why we are enslaved, how we can break free. All this is parallel. Again, I chose the Anunnaki because the history is there. I understand that there are other existence and other technologies that come from Atlantis, Lemuria, and different beings throughout the dimensions. It's not my direction to debate. It is my direction at this point to lead us together and understand how they traveled here. Why is it so hard to believe that Mars was a way station when we ourselves now are rekindling Mars? Because water exists, there were buildings there, there was a colony there. So these players and their memoirs, and how they establish and what these players and their memoirs, the tangible history that's there. These people who changed our DNA and had a hand in our rise and fall, no matter how they cared for us, no matter what their purpose was, we are still beneath them. And they are afraid that once we learn through consciousness our story, we have some pertinent questions. Why did you come to this planet? And as you came to this planet, you created a hybrid, a Homo sapien, and you had a purpose for us. Advanced society came to this planet. Now, there's much to debate about the Elohim. The Elohim is referred to either fallen angels or the God of Israel or the many add-ons that have been added to the meaning of the word, but the Elohim is many, and they are our forefathers, and they had the ability to procreate. But there is a God of the universe, and that God has been named Yahweh. And there's many translations, but it's the Holy of the Holy. The one who made many worlds and many planetary orbits. So these beings that created us, who have divine gifts, because they're super advanced, they also were created by the Yahweh. But what went wrong there? And why do the universal beings of the many worlds that we have yet to discover, why do they have this, I want to say this gap that allows them to fall? And we have it too, because we do fall. So once we get to know our creators, then the beginning, we were ignorant and we served and we bowed down to our masters. And this is fact. And we all have an enslaved mentality till this day, because someone is always using supremacy over our kind. So when we think of the many factors that went into human history, the human genome, the things we can't explain, and we are remembering why we came here, why is it difficult for us to face truths that we came here to remember we were slaves in our time, and through the divine strand, the DNA that was bestowed upon us, and the knowledge, we can overcome the transgressions of the gods. We can overcome the transgressions of the gods because we're made in an image, and we know that human beings are in a peril state right now. There's brother against brother, sister against sister, governments against governments. Yet this great society gave us the knowledge to build these pavers, and they are pavers because we have language, we have music, we have ways to run civilizations, but there's also power and greed involved, and it trickles down right on us. And to get to know the Yahweh, we have to understand the Elohims, and we have to understand why we were lied to. People have this knowledge. So we could debate about many things, and we can claim we're gods, but unless we teach the gods what we could be and we come to coexistence, how could we ever know the Yahweh? And many people have visions, and many people are here to speak their word, but a lot of people don't want to face the enslavement. We make it segregated towards a specific group of people throughout our history, when in fact we were all enslaved. Now, I'm not going into, at this point, other civilizations and other beings who came to this planet who also have agendas. They went out in search of gold, and they knew that this planet was rich and had an abundance of minerals. But we also know when they got here that the toll was deep, and after many, many discussions, they decided to create the Homo sapien. That would be us, the Earthling. And there was trial and error, and there was cloning, and there was things that are documented that we have overlooked. And one of the things that was discussed is who would mine the gold mines. So they created us in their image, but they also wanted us to be in service of them. And there was a time when gods walked on this planet, and they wanted ownership of this planet. And here comes along the Earthling. But nobody is willing to go and look at the evidence that is right before us and make sense of it and apply divine skill to it. Our planet and our people are in a terrible state. And higher civilizations, which can be cross-referenced in the Bible, in the Gnostic texts, in the Torah. Names have been changed, of course, during times of civilizations rising and falling, but there are principles that have remained the same. And the human being wants to be a god, male or female. We want those qualities because we think that they bring special abilities. And the higher civilizations did have abilities that we have taught ourselves, but we're nowhere near yet. Right? So these abilities that we can birth in ourselves, we also have to take into consideration our co-creators. And as we take this into consideration, and we are made in the image of the Elohim, the ones from heaven, and our people are riddled with enslavement, whether that be through addictions, whether that be through financial crisis, whether that be through a lack of education. There's only a few amongst the elites that rule this world. Everything else is designed to keep us in distractions. Even our own governments, the powers to rule this earth. Do you actually believe that they are acting on their own? The chaos and the killing amongst our own kind, we're doing it to each other because we're at war with each other for whatever reasons. And until we raise up and until our voice is heard, we will continue to have that enslaved mentality. And we weren't promised immortality, but we were promised 1,000 years. And in that 1,000 years, we could unlock that immortality. And then when we give our way to the Yahweh, and you're going to have to search what Yahweh means to you, what God means to you. We are not here to deter you from your beliefs in your heart. We are here to tell you that the whole world is in a crisis. And organized religion and people who rule this world have distorted even God. And there are covenants that were made, and there were gods that ruled this land, and there were bloodthirsty wars that went on. And it trickles down. So when was there ever peace? Only for a few centuries at a time. And even that was taken over by the desire that has been created in us through the gods to have power and rule. No one cares about the current system because everybody's thinking of saving themselves. But if we actually come together and we actually face these things together, there is the chance of salvation, the chance that we rise up. So I want to know about the Anunnaki more than what is available to us. I want to look them face to face and say, you can learn from us because you taught us amazing things, but you also enslaved us. And as you enslaved us, you gave us the opportunity to procreate and the ability to think, and you don't know how we were going to use it because most use it to destroy. But there are those amongst us that used it the way Yahweh wanted us to use it. And through trial and error, we also have an understanding. And when you are created to be a slave, there's a certain amount of abuse that you let go until you say no more, because this does not work. And you got it wrong a little bit because you were banking that we would be a race that would die quickly. And we see what's going on worldwide. 3/4 of the population has lost their selves and their soul to the afflictions of mankind. What gives you the right to do that? You didn't give us the right to choose. I, for one, claim my sovereignty. I want my 1,000 years. I, for one, want to be where I am evolving, but I learned from the past. People are too fickle. And because this has become a marketing habitation for most people, what happens is that we become very lost. So what are your questions and what are your concerns? Are you satisfied with the way the world is going? I understand knowing your true origins will shake you, but coming to terms with it and exceeding what is expected of us is very rewarding, because you can hold balance, you can look them in the face, and you can speak directly, and there's nothing disrespectful about it. And we all understand abuse because many people are traumatized for many different reasons.